When I started doing this, I owned this property that had 2 houses on it. I owned a building, I owned a lot of stuff. I had a retirement and I had a savings. Then God pulled me out of my career. And I continued to ask him how I could use the equity that I had in these properties and the savings and the retirement. How was I going to use that? And he had me continue to stay there and continue to pay those mortgages. And I just kept believing in him and kept going back to him and asking him, can I sell? Can I go and buy something outright? I had enough money to be able to live a very cushy life with my kids and my grandkids. And that's not what he had me do. And I followed what he had me do. And I believed in him and continued to believe in him all the way to homelessness. And it's not because I'm stupid, and it's not because I'm foolish, and it's not because God isn't real or because he's cruel. And what kind of a God would do that? I'll tell you what kind of a God would do that. One who's making a fool of money. One who doesn't care about these things. One who also told me once those buildings went into foreclosure that I could not collect the equity, that I was not able to go in and cash in on those funds because that money was acquired as the wages of prostitutes, and as the wages of prostitutes they will return. And this is the way he requires me to live. And this is the way he's required all of his servants to live. And I'm sharing this with you in this video because I had a lot that my kids, could have cashed in on. And that was the purpose of me continuing to work and continuing to work for these things, was to be able to give my kids an inheritance. But the inheritance that God talks about is an eternal inheritance that we're looking forward to, not a reward that we receive in this life. And he made it really clear to me. And so when there's something that, that the kids need, that, they're trying to figure out, like, how can we budget this so that we can have this? And I think, I had this at the house. Well, I had a lot of things when I started out. I had a lot of things. And it wasn't God's will for me to keep any of them. It was his will for us to live here in this apartment in a not so great neighborhood. And something that's been happening since I've been here is that, I walk through the neighborhood, I walk the dogs, and I go on walks with my grandson. People don't pick up after their animals. I've found syringes by the dumpsters. There are crackheads who come and search through the dumpsters and make an utter mess. And I cover my hands and go out there and clean it up. And I'm sick of doing it. And people all through the alley leave their dumpsters open like they're just so comfortable, drinking up the squalor of the alley. It's disgusting, and it's bothered me so much. Why people would want to live like this. Why they would want to leave a dumpster open so that they could, just enjoy the flies in their house and the stench of the dumpster, of rotting food and dog poop. Like, what's wrong with people? So at least in our area, we spoke with the neighbors across the way and asked that they would keep the dumpster closed. And we keep our dumpster closed. But the rest of the alley is disgusting. And I've prayed about it and prayed about it and prayed about it. And I've leaned into the metaphor and, taken it up with God. I'm so tired of cleaning up after other people. Whether it's in the role that you have me in, or it's, living here and cleaning up trash and dog poop so that I can take my grandchild on a walk and not have to bring him through all of that. It's really upsetting. Just because you're poor doesn't mean you have to live like a pig. And God started to make it worse. He started to make it worse. Like, I've been praying about this and asking him, like, what needs to happen? Please do something about this. Please let me know, what is it that I need to learn? And he actually made it worse this week. And so I knew when he made it worse that what he was doing was getting my attention. Because I know him and I have a relationship with him. I knew that he was getting my attention on something that he was speaking. And the way that he made it worse is that more people have come around here dumping into the dumpsters furniture and making a mess. More dumpster divers have come in the night, like little vermin, leaving their syringes and their fast food trash. And when I saw that it was getting worse, I knew that I needed to go back and understand from God what he wanted. And he started to speak with me about the role of the multitude in white robes. And the two main things that he was speaking to me were organize and Jericho. Organize and Jericho. And he wouldn't allow me in the days following to pick up trash, to close dumpster lids. He wouldn't allow me to go around doing that. Because what he kept pressing on me is this is something that that your children need to understand. This is something that you need to speak to them, and you need to mentor them on how to organize a community and chase the enemy away. And as I've sat and thought about this concept of organizing a community, some of the things that he's talked about are how to correct that community, how to clean up, how to keep watch, how to purge the evil from Israel. And so he's using this example of them going and talking with their neighbors and organizing the community to get this out of here, just the same way as he used that building to teach me about how to take care of his house. He's using this example to teach my kids how to clean up this community, how to clean up his house, and organize his people. You should be wondering what your role is as the multitude in white robes. If you're not wondering that, why aren't you? Ask yourself the question, why are you not concerned about God's house? Read Haggai 1 and 2. If you're not concerned about his house, he won't be concerned about yours. And in fact, he will blow away what you're working for. You should be thinking about what it means to live in his house, to live in a community, to form that community, to be part of that community, to clean it up, to organize assemblies, and to care about his house. And when you do that, when you learn the lesson that God requires, and he will accomplish by his power, not yours. When you go to him and you ask him, what is this about? What do you want me to learn from this situation? Instead of saying, getting irritated about it, agitated, they're dumping again, and I'm going to call the police, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that by the work of my own hands. When you learn the lesson that God requires, he's going to move by his own power. When you go receive from him, how do you want me to handle this? He's going to move by his own power, not yours. So instead of feeling agitated, feeling powerless, and trying to control the situation, I had to step back and look at what he was doing. Oh, you're speaking. You're speaking through this. All right, what do you want me to hear? What do you want me to do? Oh, this is for my kids. You want me to mentor them. You want me to shepherd them on what you've taught me about how to take care of your house. That's why you're speaking the message to me. So I kept thinking about this example that he was raising in me of Jericho, and how he raised the Israelites early on to understand what a trumpet is, and to blow the trumpet to call in, and blow the trumpet to set out. And that it wasn't individual people going around and living their best lives and building their empires and being selfish, but that he brought a community together, and no one had too much and no one had too little, and everyone shared. And everyone worked together to drive these enemies out, and they cared about the purity of his house. And they had concepts like purge the evil from Israel and hold one another accountable and believe in the sovereign power of God, that when you are in obedience to him and truly seeking him, that he's going to move, even in the most foolish things, even in the most powerless things, like a shout. I mean, really, like people fled from a shout. And last night he started to put the example on me of that concubine. You remember that Levite in Judges 19? Let's read the story, actually. Let's read the story so that you know the story, to make sure that you know the story. Judges 19. In those days, Israel had no king. Now a Levite who lived in a remote area in the hill country of Ephraim took a concubine from Bethlehem in Judah, but she was unfaithful to him. She left him and went back to her parents' home in Bethlehem, Judah. After she had been there 4 months, her husband went to her to persuade her to return. He had with him his servant and 2 donkeys. She took him into her parents' home, and when her father saw him, he gladly welcomed him. His father-in-law, the woman's father, prevailed on him to stay. So he remained with him 3 days, eating and drinking and sleeping there. On the 4th day they got up early and prepared to leave, but the woman's father said to his son-in-law, "Refresh yourself with something to eat, and then you can go." So the two of them sat down to eat and drink together. Afterward, the woman's father said, "Please stay tonight and enjoy yourself." And when the man got up to go, his father-in-law persuaded him, so he stayed there that night. On the morning of the 5th day, when he rose to go, the woman's father said, "Refresh yourself, wait till afternoon." So the two of them ate together. Then when the man with his concubine and his servant got up to leave, his father-in-law, the woman's father, said, "Now look, it's almost evening. Spend the night here. The day is nearly over. Stay and enjoy yourself. Early tomorrow morning you can get up and be on your way home." But unwilling to stay another night, the man left and went toward Jebus, that is Jerusalem, with his 2 saddled donkeys and his concubine. When they were near Jebus, and the day was almost gone, the servant said to his master, "Come, let's stop in the city of the Jebusites and spend the night." His master replied, "No, we won't go into any city whose people are not Israelites. We will go on to Gibeah." He added, "Come, let's try to reach Gibeah or Ramah and spend the night in one of those places." Now, this is important. Pay attention. They're going to the cities of the Israelites, but it's gotten really bad in those cities. So they went on, and the sun set as they neared Gibeah in Benjamin. There they stopped to spend the night. They went and sat in the city square, but no one took them in for the night. That evening, an old man from the hill country of Ephraim, who was living in Gibeah, the inhabitants of the place were Benjamites, came from his work in the fields. When he looked and saw the traveler in the city square, the old man asked, "Where are you going? Where'd you come from?" He answered, "We're on our way to Bethlehem in Judah, to a remote area in the hill country of Ephraim where I live. I've been to Bethlehem in Judah, and now I'm going to the house of the Lord. No one has taken me in for the night. We have both straw and fodder for our donkeys and bread and wine for ourselves, your servants, me, the woman, and the young man with us. We don't need anything." "You are welcome at my house," the old man said. "Let me supply whatever you need, only don't spend the night in the square." So he took him into his house and fed his donkeys. After they had washed their feet, they had something to eat and drink. While they were enjoying themselves, some of the wicked men from the city surrounded the house. Pounding on the door, they shouted to the old man who owned the house, "Bring out the man who came to your house so we can have sex with him." The owner of the house went outside and said to them, "No, my friends, don't be so vile. Since this man is my guest, don't do this outrageous thing. Look, here's my daughter and his concubine." I hate this part of the story. "I will bring them out to you now, and you can use them and do whatever you wish. But as for this man, don't do such an outrageous thing." But the men would not listen to him. So the man took his concubine and sent her outside to them, and they raped her and abused her all throughout the night. And at dawn they let her go, and at daybreak the woman went back to the house where her master was staying, fell down at the door, and lay there until daylight. When her master got up in the morning and opened the door of the house and stepped out to continue on his way, there lay his concubine, fallen in the doorway of the house with her hand on the threshold. He said to her, "Get up, let's go." But there was no answer. Then the man put her on his donkey and set out for home. When he reached home, he took a knife and cut up his concubine, limb by limb, into 12 parts and sent them into the areas of Israel. Everyone who saw it was saying to one another, "Such a thing has never been seen or done, not since the day the Israelites came up out of Egypt. Just imagine. We must do something, so speak up." Chapter 20. Then all the Israelites from Dan to Beersheba and from the land of Gilead came together as one and assembled before the Lord in Mizpah. The leaders of the people, of all the people of the tribes of Israel, took their places in the assembly of God's people, 400,000 men armed with swords. The Benjamites heard that the Israelites had gone up to Mizpah. Then the Israelites said, "Tell us how this awful thing happened." So they're really upset about how this has happened, and they're coming together to do something about it, because they understand that they have that responsibility to their community. And if they don't do something about it, it's going to continue to get worse, and that they are not supposed to be okay with these kinds of things happening, but that they are to purge the evil from Israel. And I want you to take that into consideration with regard to what happened after Jesus died. That those calling themselves Christian allowed an enemy to enter. They allowed the people of the ruler that would come to enter and defile the beautiful land. And this is how God's house became defiled. This is how they destroyed the sanctuary. This is why We are living during a time of such deception and false Christianity that I can't even tell people what's written in the word without them becoming offended by the word and subsequently accusing me of being false or me of being a red flag, despite the fact that I'm speaking to you on the word. And that if you allow your community, your body, your temple, God's house, if you allow it to be like this and you don't stand up and say something and drive those devils out, they're not going to leave. It's going to get worse, not better. And you are required to be used for that. You are required to be used for the truth and to preach the gospel to the ends of the earth and to organize and drive the enemy out. So the Levite, the husband of the murdered woman, said, I and my concubine came to Gibeah in Benjamin to spend the night. During the night, the men of Gibeah came after me and surrounded the house, intending to kill me. They raped my concubine and she died. I took my concubine, cut her into pieces, and sent one piece to each region of Israel's inheritance, because they committed this lewd and outrageous act in Israel. Now all you Israelites, speak up and tell me what you've decided to do. All the men rose up together as one, and saying, None of us will go home. No, not one of us will return to his house. But now this is what we will do in Gibeah. We'll go up against it in the order decided by casting lots. We'll take 10 men out of every 100 from all the tribes of Israel, and 100 from 1,000, and 1,000 from 10,000 to get provisions for the army. Then when the army arrives at Gibeah in Benjamin, it can give them what they deserve for this outrageous act done in Israel. So all the Israelites got together and united as one against the city. Now you might be saying, well, how are you guys going to do this? It's obvious that the people in this neighborhood do not care about filth. They're accustomed to living in it. They seem to be okay, just wallowing in mud like pigs. Look, this is where faith and relationship with God comes in. That if God raised this as something for my kids to learn from, then he's going to make a way. He's going to teach them, even if it's going to be difficult in the beginning because no one actually cares. No one wants to be bothered by it. Whatever the situation is, God is going to do something. And you know how I know that? Because I have a relationship with him, and I've seen the way that he moves, and because my children have a relationship with him, and they've seen the way he moves. And if they choose not to do anything about it, and they just say, well, it's not really bothering me right now, I'm okay with it, it will get worse. And God will bring grief. Because in that situation, they were unaccountable. So if God's calling you in to address something, are you going to wait until he has to send consequences to make it uncomfortable for you? To make it bad enough to where you'll actually do something? Or do you want to do it now? Because what he could do is we could go down the stairs with my little grandson, and some crackhead could be shooting up right there in front of him, or passed out by the dumpster. You either do something about it right now, or it's going to get worse. You either make yourself uncomfortable about the detestable things that are being done in God's house and start facing what's going on, or he's going to make things worse for you. He's going to make it uncomfortable enough for you to be motivated. The tribes of Israel sent messengers throughout the tribe of Benjamin saying, what about this awful crime that was committed among you? Now turn those wicked men of Gibeah over to us so that we may put them to death and purge the evil from Israel. But the Benjamites would not listen to their fellow Israelites. From their towns they came together at Gibeah to fight against the Israelites. At once the Benjamites mobilized 26,000 swordsmen from their towns, in addition to 700 able young men from those living in Gibeah. Among all these soldiers, there were 700 select troops who were left-handed, each of whom could sling a stone at a hair and not miss. Israel, apart from Benjamin, mustered 400,000 swordsmen, all of them fit for battle. You know, that, just a random thought, I'm pretty sure the Harlot Catholic Church used to make people write with their right hands. There was a superstition in Catholicism that left-handed people came from the devil. What? Why? Where is this coming from? And yet these people, it sounds like, because they're left-handed, are highly skilled. They could sling a stone at a hair and not miss. Israel, apart from Benjamin, mustered 400,000 swordsmen, all of them fit for battle. The Israelites went up to Bethel and inquired of God. They said, "Who of us is to go up first to fight against the Benjamites?" The Lord replied, "Judah shall go first." The next morning, the Israelites got up and pitched camp near Gibeah. The Israelites went out to fight the Benjamites and took up battle positions against them at Gibeah. The Benjamites came out of Gibeah and cut down 22,000 Israelites on the battlefield that day. But the Israelites encouraged one another and again took up their positions where they had stationed themselves the first day. The Israelites went up and wept before the Lord until evening, and they inquired of the Lord. They said, "Shall we go up again to fight against the Benjamites, our fellow Israelites?" The Lord answered, "Go up against them." Then the Israelites drew near to Benjamin the second day. This time, when the Benjamites came out from Gibeah to oppose them, they cut down another 18,000 Israelites, all of them armed with swords. Then all the Israelites, the whole army, went up to Bethel, and there they sat weeping before the Lord. They fasted that day until evening and presented burnt offerings and fellowship offerings to the Lord. And the Israelites inquired of the Lord. In those days, the ark of the covenant of God was there, with Phinehas, son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, ministering before it. They asked, "Shall we go up again to fight against the Benjamites, our fellow Israelites, or not?" The Lord responded, "Go, for tomorrow I will give them into your hands." So it took a while. God had me living in a house telling me, stay in this land, because he wanted me to understand what it was like for the Israelites to stay in that land, what it's like to remain in the land that God has gathered you to, symbolically, of Jerusalem, and that it's not easy, that enemies come against, but that God said, he already told the Israelites, enemies are going to come against you, and when those enemies come against you, this is what you are to do, so that they had a constant relationship of faith and reliance on God. So it's not as though it was easy for them to live in the land. If it was easy for them to live in the land, God wouldn't need to command them to live in the land. It was hard. And look how long it's taking for them to clean up this land of this enemy, of these evil people. Then Israel set an ambush around Gibeah. They went up against the Benjamites on the third day and took up positions against Gibeah as they had done before. The Benjamites came out to meet them, and they were drawn away from the city. They began to inflict casualties on the Israelites as before, so about 30 men fell in the open field and on the roads, the one leading to Bethel and the other to Gibeah. While the Benjamites were saying, "We are defeating them as before," the Israelites were saying, "Let's retreat and draw them away from the city to the roads." All the men of Israel moved from their places and took up positions at Baal Tamar, and the Israelite ambush charged out of its place in the west of Gibeah. The 10,000 of Israel's able young men made a frontal attack on Gibeah. The fighting was so heavy that the Benjamites did not realize how near disaster was. The Lord defeated Benjamin before Israel, and on the day the Israelites struck down 25,100 Benjamites, all armed with swords. Then the Benjamites saw that they were beaten. Now the men of Israel had given way before Benjamin, because they relied on the ambush they had set near Gibeah. Those who had been in ambush made a sudden dash into Gibeah, spread out, and put the whole city to the sword. The Israelites had arranged with the ambush that they should send up a great cloud of smoke from the city, and then the Israelites would counterattack. The Benjamites had begun to inflict casualties on the Israelites, about 30, and they said, "We are defeating them as in the first battle." But when the column of smoke began to rise from the city, the Benjamites turned and saw the whole city going up in smoke. Then the Israelites counterattacked, and the Benjamites were terrified because they realized that this disaster had come on them. So they fled before the Israelites in the direction of the wilderness, but they could not escape the battle. And the Israelites who came out of the towns cut them down there. They surrounded the Benjamites, chased them, and easily overran them in the vicinity of Gibeah on the east. 18,000 Benjamites fell, all of them valiant fighters. As they turned and fled toward the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon, the Israelites cut down 5,000 men along the roads. They kept pressing after the Benjamites as far as Gittim and struck down 2,000 more. On that day, 12,000 Benjamites, swordsmen, fell, all of them valiant fighters, but 600 of them turned and fled into the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon, where they stayed 4 months. The men of Israel went back to Benjamin and put all the towns to the sword, including the animals and everything else they found. All the towns they came across, they set on fire. Now, my kids could use all the excuses in the world. They could say, "Well, it doesn't really bother me." They could say, "Well, that's just too much work. Why do we need to do that? We need to organize the whole neighborhood. I don't want to do that." But if you're not listening to what God is telling you to do, what he's moving you to do, if you don't go back and discern this with him, He's going to make it worse. And so you might say, well, isn't it enough for me to pay attention to my own family? I have enough with my family. Why do I need to be concerned about other people? Why don't I need to care about their salvation? What business is it of mine that people are preaching falsehood? They're going to continue to do that, right? You have a responsibility in God's house. You have a responsibility that he established all the way back to the Old Testament to purge the evil from Israel, which means you need to call things out and you need to be helping others to understand what Christianity actually is. You need to keep your hands strong and build that temple. And in order for you to understand the role that he's placed you in, you need to go back and return to him and start receiving his ministry. First as an individual, then in the house he's placed you over, then you can serve in his house. That is what your role is. And some of you might say, well, I don't really want to serve in his house. I just want to do this as an individual and then just be concerned about my house. You will not be a priest of God if you don't care about serving in his house. If that's the attitude you have about his house, you don't want to disciple with people, you don't want to get your hands dirty, you want to take that treasure and bury it, your avoidance, your wicked and lazy heart will not be accepted as a priest. Please discern this message with God.